So let's now take a look at the strategic position and action evaluation matrix, or also known as SPACE matrix. So the SPACE matrix is a management tool used to analyze a company, and it is also used to determine what type of strategy a company should undertake. Okay, so yung sa BCG matrix natin, we take a look at saan yung pwesto ng product natin based on market share and market position, or market share and market growth. Okay? Now, for this space matrix naman, based on the position or the status of our business, what are the strategies that needs to be taken? Okay? So, the space matrix is sabi ko nga kanina, management tool siya that focuses on strategy formulation, especially as related to the competitive position of an organization. Okay, so this is how a space matrix looks like. So, ito yung mga possible quadrants then sa space matrix natin. So, we have aggressive, competitive, defensive, and conservative. So the space matrix is broken into 4 quadrants where each quadrant suggests a different type of or nature of strategy. So later on, ipa-plot natin yung points and then we will graph it tapos tignan natin kung saan quadrant siya fall and then doon tayo magsasuggest kung ano yung mga strategies na gagawin natin. Kung magiging aggressive ba tayo, competitive ba tayo, defensive, or conservative. Okay? So, makikita nyo dito na in this side, we have the financial strength and then competitive strategy, which are both internal factors. Okay, so yung financial strength natin simply means how much money or assets a company has. Okay, so if the company has a lot of money or assets, then it doesn't need to focus its efforts in getting additional assets or money. Then yung competitive strategy naman natin is all about how good your product or service is, or yung position of or your current position with respect to the industry. The better known you are or your products are and the higher the market share, then it is easier for you to be above your competitors. And then we have here the industry strength and environment stability, which are both external factors. Okay, so when we say environment stability, so these are the external factors that affect the industry. So if things are the environmental factors are changing fast and the company can't keep up and the changes, then surely you have or the company has high a disadvantage compared to the rest of the market. Pero if yung changing or yung fast change in the external factors nagki-keep up yung company nyo, then the company have environment stability. For the industry strength, so the company has industry strength if your business is being attractive compared to other competitors, your business is growing and have high profit potential. Okay, so later on, we will discuss kung anong gagawin natin kapag napunta tayo sa aggressive, competitive, defensive, and conservative. But yung aggressive quadrant natin usually occurs when all dimensions are positive. Okay, so the implicit strategy is to aggressively grow the business, raising stakes for all competitors if we fall into this quadrant. And yung competitive naman usually arises, napupunta tayo sa quadrant na to if the firm has a strong advantage in an attractive industry but its financial strength is insufficient to compensate the environment or environmental stability. So usually the immediate strategy in this quadrant is to improve its financial strength. Okay, kasi nga mababa. For the conservative naman, usually it arises when the firm is financially strong but unlikely to make significant returns from the business. So, yung usual strategy is to look for diversification opportunities in more attractive competitive situations. While defensive naman, of course, or we fall under this quadrant if the of all dimensions scored poorly. So firms in this position are very weak and heading failure unless external environment becomes favorable. So, paano ba natin ipa-plot yung points natin to come up with the strategy that we need to do in order to make our company or business competitive compared to other businesses? But before that, ito yung mga example ng mga financial strength natin. Yung financial strength natin can be measured based on our ROI, return on investment, leverage, liquidity, working capital, cash flow, inventory turnover, earnings per share. For the competitive position, we can measure it based on the market share, product quality, life cycle, customer loyalty, utilization, technological know-how, and control over suppliers and distributors. While for the environment stability naman, we can measure it based on technological changes, rate of inflation, demand variability, place range of competing products, barriers to entry into the market, competitive pressure, ease of exit from market, and for the industry strength, can be based on profit potential, financial stability, extent leverage, resource utilization, ease of entry into market, productivity, and capacity utilization. So, these are the assumptions. Okay, so, so first, by definition, that CA are the competitive advantage and IS, industry strength, yun yung mga nasa x-axis natin. Okay? So, our in the space matrix are plotted on the x-axis. So, yung competitive advantage natin, our CA values can range from -1 to -6. If you can remember, andito kasi siya. Okay, so -1 to -6 yung CA natin. Yung IS naman natin or yung industry strength natin sa x-axis pa din can take +1 to +6. Okay, kasi andito siya, +1 to +6. Okay, and then yung FS and ES naman natin are financial strength and ES dimensions are plotted on the y-axis. So, ES or yung environmental stability can be between -1 and -6 and then yung financial strength naman natin from +1 to +6. So, tignan natin ulit. So, ito yung environment stability natin. So, from -1 to -6 while FS or financial strength from +1 to +6. Okay, so yung first step natin is to choose a set of variables to be used to gauge the competitive advantage, industry strength, environmental stability, and financial strength. So we can choose from these factors na listed dito, okay, or variables na yun. And then step 2, rate individual factors. Okay, so rate individual factors using rating system specific to each dimension. So, sabi nga natin kung ano yung mga possible values kanina between -1 to -6 or between +1 and +6. Okay, so rate competitive advantage and environmental stability using rating scale from -6 and yung worst to -1 best. While rate industry strength and financial strength naman using rating scale from positive 1 to positive 6. And then step 3, find the average score. The average score for competitive advantage, industry strength, environmental stability, and financial strength. And then plot the values from step 3 for each dimension on the space matrix on the appropriate axis. And then add the average score for the competitive advantage and industry strength. Okay, ito yung magkasama, competitive advantage and industry strength. This will be your final point on x-axis on the space matrix. On the other hand, add the average score for the space matrix, environmental stability, and financial strength dimensions to find your final point on the axis y. So, and then, find the intersection of your x and y points, then draw a line from the center of the space matrix to your point. This line reveals the type of strategy the company should pursue. So, para mas maintindihan, ito yung example. So, we have here factors or variables under competitive advantage. Okay? So, competitive advantage and financial strength are under internal strategic position, while external strategic position and have the industry strength and the environmental stability. Okay, pero ang pagsasamahin natin yung parehas na nasa x-axis, which is the competitive advantage and industry strength, and yung y-axis natin yung financial strength and environmental stability. Okay, so first, yung competitive advantage. So we have listed here different variables under competitive advantage, and then we put or assign values. So negative 1 as being the best, and negative 6 yung worst naman. And then, so we assign negative 1, negative 1, negative 3, and negative 2. And sabi natin, kukuhanin natin yung average. So we got negative 1.75. So we simply add and then get the average of these values, and we've got negative 1.75. The same procedure is done in the industry strength. So there are different variables. We assign values from positive 1 to positive 6, and then we got the average. So we have here positive 4.75, and then we add yung negative 1.75 and 4.75, and we've got yung 3. So, eto na yung score natin for the x-axis. Okay? For the y-axis naman, we have here the financial stability. So, again, we list 4 variables. We assign values from between positive 1 and positive 6. And we've got the average, which is positive 5. Okay. Ganon din yung ginawa sa environmental stability. So, we list 4 variables. We assign values between negative 1 and negative 6. We computed the average. Then, since we already have the average for financial stability and environmental stability, or financial strength and environmental stability, we add it. And then we come up with 2.75. So this is now the total score for the y-axis. And then, ang ipa-plot na natin is yung 3 sa x-axis and then yung 2.75 sa y-axis. Okay, so eto na siya. So we have yung 3 sa x-axis and then 2.75 sa y-axis natin. And then, find nyo yung intersection. So, we plot this. Ito siya. So, saan nag-fall yung natin, yung points natin? So, under siya or nag-fall siya dito sa aggressive quadrant. So if you can remember, we have 4 quadrants, yung aggressive, competitive, defensive, and conservative. So, andito ngayon tayo, based on our analysis, or yung sa binigay natin variables and values, average and total score, we fall under the aggressive quadrant. So, this tell us that our company should pursue an aggressive strategy. So it means that our company has a strong competitive position in the market with rapid growth, and it needs to use its internal strength. Remember, andito yung financial strength natin to develop a market penetration and market development strategy. So this can include product development, integration with other companies, acquisition of competitors, and so on. Okay, so ganun yung space matrix natin. So if we fall under the aggressive quadrant, it means that the company has excellent position to use internal strength. So we need to take advantage of the external opportunities and overcome the internal weakness to avoid or minimize external threats. Kapag naman dito tayo nag-fall, kunwari dito siya, -3 tapos 2.75 and we fall under the conservative quadrant, then the firm or the business should stay close to its core competences and not take risk. Conservative na. So, we are not risk takers in this quadrant. Kapag nandito tayo, nag-fall tayo sa defensive quadrant, so sabi natin kanina, nag-fall, nakukuha natin or nag-arise yung defensive quadrant if we have poor scores in all dimensions. So if we fall in this quadrant, then we should focus on rectifying the internal weakness and external threats. And when we fall under this competitive quadrant naman, so we need to use competitive strategies. Okay, so that's the space matrix. So we need to identify the factors or different variables under the financial strength, environmental stability, and then yung sa competitive strategy and industry strength. And then we need to assign values for those, either negative between -1 and -6 or +1 and +6. And then we need to get the average. And then i-add natin yung average ni financial strength and environmental stability. And i-add din natin yung average ni industry strength at competitive strategy, and then we will plot it in the graph to determine what strategy should be done. Okay, so that's all. Thank you for listening.